what to say. I could get lost in this piece. I did get lost in this piece. Hi, everyone. Today, I'm returning again to Simon and Garfunkel, and this time, I am listening to a piece called El Condor Pasa. El Condor Pasa is an orchestral musical piece from the zarzuela El Condor Pasa by the Peruvian composer Daniel Alomía Robles, written in 1913 and based on traditional Andean music, specifically folk music from Peru. This is going to be interesting. Simon and Garfunkel recorded the song under the title El Condor Pasa, If I Could, featuring English lyrics credited to Simon. The duo included the song on their 1970 album Bridge Over Troubled Water. I guess I've listened to at least one piece from there, if not more, and released it as a single in the US, where it reached number 18 on the Billboard Pop Singles chart and number 6 on the Easy Listening chart in fall 1970, and peaked at number 11 on the Cashbox Top 100. Well, you know, I like Simon and Garfunkel, so I'm curious to see what they've done with this, having last time listened to another folk remake of a piece of music, the Scarborough Fair. So now let's see how they handle this type of music. Already I can hear this sort of well, to me, I think of it as Spanish style influence.
I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would.
I love those flutes.
I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Yes, I would. If I only could, I surely would.
You know, it's rarely something that I would stop to comment on, except that I've listened to, I don't know how many Simon and Garfunkel pieces by now, but my repertoire of their music is growing, and they usually have such a peaceful, calm vocal style. It's interesting to hear them get a little bit more emotional here, really. I even heard his voice break at one point, you know, and usually I don't comment on a single crack in a voice, but because I've heard so little of that from their output, it was really obvious to me. By the way, these flutes, they are just, it's like climbing to a mountaintop on an early morning that's a bit chill. And at the same time, the sun is bright and fresh and the air is just alive. And, well, considering that it's based on traditional Andean music, it's not surprising that I get that feeling. But it's incredible. It's really beautiful. Let's back up and just notice this little voice detail that I caught here.
I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Yes, I would.
There. Yes, I would.
If I only could, I surely
I'd rather sail away
Like a swan that's here and gone.
He gives the world its sound. than a sound. It's sad as sound.
Even the lyrics are just breathtaking. And now, in this voice that's singing, I'd rather sail away like a swan that's here and gone. I just was talking about how emotionally intense the voice was, unusual for Simon and Garfunkel. And now, here, in this part, it becomes more ethereal, more otherworldly, more in flight. I'd rather sail away like a swan that's here and gone. And then this line, after all this incredible beauty in the music and these expressions of what I'd rather do, a man gets tied up to the ground. He gives the world its saddest sound. Its saddest sound. And as the music comes down there and descends, its saddest sound. Its saddest sound, but that's not the end of it. Then we have this little instrumental insertion here. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. That's a minor falling third. Da-dum, da-dum. Well, I've talked at various times about how minor thirds, the minor third interval has various associations around the world. It's not always sadness, but here in the Western world, we often associate it with melancholy, with sadness. Da-dum, da-dum, and the quivering flute singing that falling minor third. It becomes an expression of sadness and mournfulness here, just after we hear that line.
He gives the world its saddest sound. Its saddest sound.
And you just want to cry.
I'd rather be a forest than a street. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. I'd rather feel the earth beneath my feet. Yes, I would. If I only could, I surely would.
I feel like I just want to listen to it again. I'm going to listen to it again because I can. It's like I'm listening to a mountain stream.
A sparrow than a snail. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Yes, I would. If I only could,
It's a song. It's a song.
I'd rather be a forest than a street. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. I'd rather feel the earth beneath my feet. Yes, I would. If I only could, I surely would.
Well, this is one of those pieces that I almost feel like it's sacrilege to speak after it. And, but here I am on camera and I need to say something. What to say? I could get lost in this piece. I did get lost in this piece. In a way, it made me remember. I mean, it's a different emotional experience, but the same sort of intensity as, for example, what's the Queen song about the cat?
All dead, all dead.
All dead, all dead. The same sort of just overwhelming experience. At the same time, as I said, it's such a different emotional experience than I had with that one. It makes me think of another Queen song, which I also felt was a treasure, and that was Bijou. And in this way, I feel like this one is what falls in that category of just utterly beautiful musical treasure. The lyrics have a bit to do with it, quite a bit to do with it. And I mean, obviously, Simon and Garfunkel didn't create this music from scratch. They took it, they orchestrated it, they shaped it to their own ends. But the lyrics were something that was original to them, to Simon. And they are so perfectly set. It's the same sort of, as I said, the same sort of elevation of a piece of music from something that was good, like, say, Scarborough Fair, to something far more profound and just incredible in what it expresses, simply by choosing. And this is where I didn't really, I guess I have appreciated each one of their songs lyrically. They have this way of very unassumingly saying incredibly deep things and things that are really thought-provoking and really cut to the heart without any sort of fanfare. This is one of those. And just like I talked about with Scarborough Fair, what they added lyrically to that completely changed the entire piece into something just head and shoulders above the original nice folk song. Well, here we have something from a sort of Spanish theatrical tradition, the zarzuela, and they've taken it and again turned it into something just breathtaking, standing on its own two feet. And I'm going to say again, this is a gem of musical artistic expression. If I were to sum it up, the ideas expressed here, we could notice how he's using a certain sequence. Rather, I'd rather, I would, I could, if I could. Surely would. It's almost, it kind of plays with us because we have rather, would, could, we tend to say should after, right? But instead of should, he says surely would. Not should, as in I haven't done, but if I could, I surely would. It's a wonderful little poetic play on expectations and language and the musical elements of the language. Should, surely would. Changes the whole dynamic from a sort of guilty I should to a positive I surely would. This doesn't strike me as a song about somebody who's dissatisfied with his life, somebody who wants to improve their life because they're unhappy with who they are, what they are, where they are. Instead, the setting of it and the expression of it makes me feel like this is an expression of the dreams of mankind, of the dreams of humanity, the hopes and dreams of if I have the choice, if I can choose, then this is what I would choose. We don't always get to choose these things. Some of us end up being nails rather than hammers. Some of us are snails rather than sparrows. But the idea that we all have this love within us of freedom and it's expressed here, the imagery of a bird, the freedom of a bird to fly rather than crawl, or the freedom of a hammer. Again, it's movement and a bit of power, we could say, not just being hammered upon, but again, this idea of choice and self-governance. And then again, a swan that's here and gone. This is what is being used to express. But then after all of this about freedom and choice and self-governance, autonomy, all of this, we end with this idea, I'd rather be a forest than a street. And the reason for it, when I heard that line, I'd rather be a forest than a street, coming right after a man gets tied up to the ground. He gives the world its saddest sound. So a man is anchored to the ground. He can't fly. He can't move. He can't. He gets tied to the ground. Interesting. Tied up to the ground. So we have this expression, and this stands out to me mostly because Vlad is always asking me about these expressions. Why do you say fill it up? Why don't you just say fill it? Why do you say it's coming up? Why don't you just say it's coming? And here, a man gets tied up to the ground. It stands out to me because we have this constant bantering and exploration of idiomatic phrases in the English language in this household. But it's special here because it comes right after this idea of, up like a bird, free like a bird. A man gets tied up to the ground. So this up and down thrown in there. And then he gives the world its saddest sound. And then that's repeated, its saddest sound. And right after that comes, I'd rather be a forest than a street. And when that line came, it hit me so hard because I expected it to be exploring this idea of how man contributes sadness to the world, and a street is where humanity passes a lot, and so the sadness of a street rather than the beauty, the lack of sadness in a forest where the birds dwell. But it took it a bit differently. Again, a nice little surprising turn. Why would I rather be a forest than a street? I'd rather feel the earth beneath my feet. Hold on, we were just talking about flying and being free. Now we're talking about trees anchored to the earth. And what is that famous poem about, I've never seen a poem as lovely as a tree. And it goes on to talk about how her mouth is pressed against the breast of the earth, and it's again an incredibly simple, short, few words bit of poetry, but it's beautiful. And here it kind of recalls that to me. I'd rather feel the earth beneath my feet. It's as if it's kind of subtly recalling those days in grade school when we were made to memorize these little bits of poetry, right? And I don't know how many of you had to memorize that poem in school, but I would guess quite a few of you are familiar with it. It seems to be a pretty standard one. And so after that reason, I'd rather feel the earth beneath my feet. Yes, I would. If I only could, I surely would. Well, I thought this was all about flying and being free. And it brings us back down to earth and anchors us here on earth. But not like a sad existence. The beautiful existence of a tree, connected with nature, connected with the earth, linked to the earth, and at the same time in touch with the birds who take refuge in the tree. I mean, there's so much in this simple, very, very minimal expression, and it's utterly gorgeous. Well, there I've hardly even talked about the music, but it has to do with, well, as I said, Simon and Garfunkel didn't compose the music. They arranged it. And so what they've done again is they've done an incredible marriage of music and lyrics to get us to feel and hear and consider something. And at the end, we don't feel like we are somehow unable to do this. It doesn't feel like a hopeless, yes, I would, if I could, I surely would, but I can't. It never says I can't. Instead, it leaves it open, saying, so we kind of end feeling like, oh, can I? If I can, I surely will. And I do. It's that sort of positive, uplifting, worlds before us opening up of thought and ideas and possibilities that never struck our imagination before. Was it Simon and Garfunkel that did that song about, it was kind of like a boy in New York and he,
The boxer.
yeah, I guess it was the boxer. It's the same sort of sentiment. It's kind of like, this is maybe the thoughts that went on in the boxer's mind before he up and decided, no, it wasn't the boxer. It wasn't the boxer because the boxer, no, it wasn't the boxer. It was another one. Similar, but a bit different because he left. He said, I'm going to be free, basically. I'm not sure it was Simon and Garfunkel.
Spread your wings.
Spread your wings. Yes, spread your wings. That's it. Spread your wings. Here we are talking about birds again. It's the same sentiment, the same idea expressed differently. It's almost as if this is perhaps what went on in his mind before he decided to spread his wings. This idea of, I'd rather be. Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. Oh, I actually can. A man gets tied up to the ground, but actually I don't have to be. I can change this. You know, it's that sort of enabling song, which makes you suddenly realize maybe I'm not as tied up or tied down as I assumed I was. Such a beautiful piece of music. And of course, the song itself, the musical part of it, breathtaking. Somehow those flutes, they quiver and they sing and even the beginning, the guitar or whatever is doing that delicate little strumming. As I said, it feels like I'm just watching a mountain stream and the air is crisp and cool and there's not another human being around. It's as if even I don't exist. My humanity, the sadness of humanity doesn't exist there. This is just, this is going on my favorites list. So, here I am again, enjoying Simon and Garfunkel. This is from Bridge Over Troubled Water. I feel like I should give that whole album a listen. Maybe that's going to be a project coming up. I'll talk to Vlad about it. But El Condor Pasa, if I could, go listen to it and let it warm your heart and brighten your day. I'll see you soon.